Good morning, Alex. How are you?
Hello, all good, all good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I think first webinar for 2026. Yes. Awesome. First of all, thank you so much, Alex, for joining in and accepting the request for yet another demo. I think we have super amazing flow. I'll just wait for a minute for more people to join in. And even for, I think Leon is also joining in today. But yeah, I'll quickly set the stage and then we can kickstart from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, before we jump in, Alex would love for you to have a quick intro to the audience. Once over again, I know you're famous. People love you on the stream. But once for new people, would love for you to introduce yourself and then we can kickstart.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Alex. I've been in the company since the first day, pretty much. Initially, I started as a lead MLOps DevOps engineer, but then I kind of slowly transitioned into more DevRel/GTM roles, going to the conferences, doing these webinars. Hello, hi, Leon. And yeah,
Hey, everybody.
basically now I'm more of a talking head rather than engineer. It's been quite a fun transition, and yeah, I also do all the different demos like I will be doing here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Hello, Leon.
What's up?
All good for you?
Oh, good. Can't complain. How you
Welcome
doing,
back
Sunny?
to the stream. I think it's a house full today for me, you, and Alex. So I was just talking. I was just letting the audience know, introduce Alex. So I know people know you as well, but would love for you to have a quick intro. Then we can kickstart.
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Leon. I'm a developer advocate here at Zencoder. Um, Alex has got a little bit of seniority on me, but yeah, I mean, honestly, if I haven't talked to you yet, then I probably will at some point. So yeah, you kind of got like you said, full house here.
Awesome. I have a bunch of questions for both of you. This is again curated from the audience and from the communities. So open to both of you. Feel free to pick up. Feel free to answer the questions. So my first question is around specs to execution. So we have been talking a lot about spec-driven development and how do we turn clear specs into workflow so that the agent can essentially execute them perfectly fine.
Yeah, so Leon, you wanna?
No, it's all you. It's all you.
All right. Well, I mean, from my point of view, the important part here is, well, first of all, from you as a user, as a developer point of view, right? You need to ideally define your goals or your tasks clearly, like pretty much like in real life world, right? You don't want your product manager to give you some nonsensical task. You would want them to define, the definitions of done. You wouldn't want them to define all the, all the criteria and whatnot, and what kind of features or bug fixes what they want you to implement. And the same goes for when you are, I guess, kind of taking the role of product manager over AI agents. That you want, as a human, define the goals rather clearly. And while in my demo, in the following demo, I will show some examples which may be not as clearly defined. Although, I mean, 2 sentences, for example, for one task should be enough, but again, depending on the complexity, you might want to think about it. And then the second part, from the AI point of view, right, from the LLM point of view, the reason spec-driven development is picking up, right, is because you are, or AI is essentially guided, and it's in a sense, it's also self-guided towards what it needs to achieve. And it also uses, all different artifacts, like Markdown has become a language of the AI, I guess, nowadays. So AI can use those things, those artifacts, to sort of self-reflect, self-guide, and help itself to progress towards the goal. But it also helps you as a developer to better understand what it is working on, what AI is working on, and how to steer it. Maybe there are some ways to, or directions where you want AI to go instead of the chosen path.
Makes sense.
I'm just going to add one thing there, which is that, you said, turning specs into workflows. And with workflows, AI or not, LLM or not, agent or not, you can have workflows that are both strictly forward looking, right? So markdown files that describe sequential behavior without sort of incorporating historical data from past runs or looping, right, onto previous runs. But coming from like a construction background, right, like task lists and like very sort of sophisticated workflows are just part and parcel of that industry. And some workflows are designed to only go forward. Some workflows are designed to have the flexibility to adapt based on if something needs to change. So those markdown files are not necessarily read only, depending on what behavior you want to see. If you want your agent to incorporate information into those markdown files for like the next agent to consider or throw back to another part of the workflow, that's part of the flexibility that you're endowed with as part of these flows.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think the currently popular thing, which is called the Ralph Wiggum loop, right, where you ask AI to do the same task over and over, is kind of in the same like follows the same pattern, right? So you basically throw it again over and over, and that its own task is not really fixed, right? Technically, it can implement one part and you throw it again on the same task, and it will be doing different things.
Makes sense. I think we should get started. We are already past time. But yeah, I have a bunch of questions and I'll keep it for the end of the session, Alex. But yeah, Alex, the stage is all yours. And I think we can get started with a quick, short, and sweet demo.
All right, let me just share my screen here quickly. Let's see, screen. I want to share my Zenflow. Okay. All right, let me know when you see the screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, so in case you're not, you as a viewers of this webinar, you're not familiar yet with our new product, which was launched, on December. This is how Zenflow, the name of the product, looks like, right? So when you start, you basically get out of the box a few predefined workflows, right? So you have full-blown SDD workflow, which means that first AI will gather requirements, create a PRD, then prepare the technical spec, and then it does the planning, and then finally the actual implementation. So there is like it starts with 4 steps, but then as we will see in a second, it actually is not fixed, the amount of steps. So essentially AI can self-update the plan, self-update the spec, depending on the task and depending on the goals it wants to achieve. There are also other sort of shorter, to some extent, specs, or there are also some spec like fix bug, which is more tailored towards specific workflow of reproducing and then fixing the bug, right? So when you, as developer, want to fix a bug, probably the first thing is you want to try to reproduce it. You want to do root cause analysis. And only after that, once you understand what is the reason, what is the root cause, you only then proceed to fixing the bug and implementing the fix. Well, I guess that's the typical flow for that, but I would imagine there are some deviations here. So yeah, essentially this flow would ask AI to essentially follow the same pattern, right? So first it would reproduce it, then think about the fix, and then implement the actual fix. But I personally, especially for the large features, for large features, I like full spec-driven development workflow, which essentially, as I mentioned, consists of starts with 4 steps, but then it can self-update. So I will duplicate this task here, which is contrary to what I've said initially, right? So defining the more concrete goals. It is not, I guess, as well defined, although it is rather easy to understand what is needed here. Right? So we just want to have the dark theme to the website, and we want to have a switch in the header of the pages. Right. So again, as I mentioned, I will be using full SDD workflow. Let me create task, I will be using Zencoder agent. So I will create a task. And as I mentioned, initially, the agent will start with 4 steps, right? So we can actually see the actual plan, which we use as a sort of starting point. So first, as I mentioned, we gather requirements, then the tech spec, then the planning. And then here is the actual flexibility of this plan and of the Zenflow in general. We don't have the fixed number of steps. So over here, as you can see, essentially we are telling AI to self-reflect and self-adjust, right? So we are telling it to take this step, the implementation step, and actually replace it the multiple steps from AI's plan of the implementation. So we will see in a second. Actually, I can switch to the similar task which is already in review. So it was started from the same plan, from the same full spec-driven development. And as you can see here, the actual implementation step was replaced by 7 tasks, which AI generated as part of its planning step. Which means that essentially with Zenflow, with this spec-driven development, you can let AI just do its own work, do its own discovery, do its own understanding of the project, and then it can, based on this understanding, also update its own plan, update its own trajectory of steps it needs to take to perform that task. So yeah, in the meantime, while I was talking, the agent created already completed the requirement step. And again, as I mentioned, Markdown has kind of became the language of AI, of LLMs. And of course, when AI is dumping something into those artifacts, into those Markdown files, you might want to read them, right? So in my case, I actually have auto start steps. But if you want to be more thorough, if you want to review what AI is producing step by step, you might want to switch it off and then just read through, let's say, read through requirements, see if there are any things that AI didn't pick up correctly, that AI didn't choose correctly, and essentially, then you can just update the requirements. Going forward, going to the next steps, update the spec, update the plan, and essentially steer AI towards a better implementation, towards a better result, right? So in this case, let's see, AI created 4 user stories, right? So there is theme toggle access, dark application, theme persistence, and system theme detection. So essentially, again, I didn't specify in my task description, which was again quite short, right? Only 2 sentences essentially. I didn't specify that AI should do system theme detection, right? Or that it needs to persist the theme. It actually kind of decided this on its own, and in this case, it's a good thing, right? That it decided to do that on its own. Because it is kind of something that you, as a user of the website, would want to have, right? You would want to have your theme persisted. You would want probably for the website to detect your system settings and turn on the respective theme right away, so that you don't get, let's say, blinded by white website when you are working in the dark. But again, you can, of course, also review those user stories. You can update. You can add any other extra user stories if you feel like you need to either add more just requirements for AI to implement this feature, or maybe you want to steer it in some direction, or maybe you actually don't want to do system theme detection for whatever reason. You can also do that as well. And from my personal experience, like I've been using Zenflow for already probably 2 months now, and to be honest, I rarely now go to actual IT. Sometimes you can't really, maybe it's just me problem, of course, but sometimes I can't really define like all the way end to end what I want AI to implement, what kind of feature. No, what kind of features I want to have, right? What kind of aspects of the feature I want to have. Like, again, the example here would be the system team detection. Again, I kind of probably would think about it when I would give AI the task, but again, I didn't think about specifying it. And a good thing again about having all those artifacts that you can actually read through, and maybe you at some point you are reading this user story and you're like, aha, that's correct. I thought about it, but I didn't put it in the description. But AI actually thought about this for me, and now it is essentially doing that thing. Or maybe you are reading through these user stories, and then you are like, hey, wait a second, I also want to have this feature or that feature, which I didn't think about. Right, so maybe I want to change something about the toggle. Maybe I want to change something else. Again, I can easily, as a, well, in this case, kind of project manager, right, of the virtual agent, I can make sure that those things are taken care of, even if I didn't think about this in the first go, right? And then nice thing about well, Zenflow in particular, I'm not limited to only one agent running, right? So in the meantime, our agent already started the implementation, but a good thing, I'm not limited to only one agent running in the background. I don't need to sit and wait, watching the agent doing its work. I can actually start multiple agents because each agent works in their own environment, their own isolated environment, which means that I can, let's say I want to duplicate this end-to-end test task, right? So again, not the longest description, I would say, but it is basically contains all the necessary information from which the AI can start. And I can run this task as well in parallel. And the agents, in my case, two agents working in parallel, they won't conflict with each other. They will be working on their own, in their own copy of the environment. But again, in each task, each step, I can review all the work independently. I can maybe start a server in one environment, start a server in another environment, compare them side by side, and see which performs better, which one works better, and so on. And yeah, again, in this case, it's not probably maybe not the most descriptive task, but I would say it does the work, and SDD actually helps AI to also make sense of this rather short description, right? So again, I don't specify which kind of list of pages. I don't specify which pages are accessible without authentication. AI is able to find this on its own, and through SDD it can also define the goals for itself. So you can see it found 17 pages for end-to-end testing, which are publicly available without authentication. And then based on that, it can essentially update its own task, its own task definition, so that it can then deliver better results. Okay. Shantanu, I don't want to go a bit. Don't want to go over time. So let me know if I need to stop.
I think
If there are any questions.
one question related to your screen,
Yeah.
actually. So I can see a small button which says review with another agent. So relevant to the same question that I got from the community is that where should humans, human review should step in whenever required? How does that how does AI essentially review the AI generated code? So does that button answer the question, or do you have something more to add on to this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I would say there is no definitive answer. The button, this button, review with another agent, it allows essentially for you to get another pair of eyes that can help you review, well, the requirements in this case automatically, right? But depending on the complexity of the feature, depending on the complexity of the bug fix, for example, in some cases you still might want to also review manually, right? Review with your own eyes. But reviewing with another LLM is just a way to essentially get a kind of second opinion, like you would you might want to have with, let's say, doctors, right? So you maybe go to one doctor, then you go to another doctor, and then you sort of cross review the results, right? So you get sort of like second opinion. But at the same time, again, this sort of cross review can be done potentially automatically through ChatGPT, or you can also cross review on your own if you have enough knowledge of medicine, for example, right? The same goes with the development, basically.
Got it. My next question is to for both of you. I mean, you both of you have been talking to different sort of clients, enterprises. So, how do we scale SDD across big, large enterprises teams while essentially keeping the standard alignment and velocity pretty much intact? So, feel free to pick up whomsoever wants to pick this up.
Leon, you want to go first on this one?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because at this point you're really talking about, I think, two different questions, right? One is how in your organization do you actually empower your engineers, sort of individuals, right? Because as engineers we are individuals, and with Zenflow you have a platform that is agentic management. I call it my agentic command center first. So it's a paradigm shift for the individuals, a paradigm shift for how I work with code every single day. And so, for one, I think that no matter how big the organization, putting in front of your engineers a platform that is designed from the ground up to basically coalesce with the actual state of coding that we're in today, right? It's not an IDE, although the code files are just a click away if you want to edit them or view them. But what you're primarily looking at, right, is these agentic flows. So for one, the individual side, right, that's the question that Zenflow answers. But then, it is part of an ecosystem. So we use Zenflow in conjunction with our Zen agents that are integrated into our CI/CD pipelines, right? So you can always push a PR. There's a push button directly in Zenflow if you want to push what the code that your agents have written that you've guided. But also we have automated agents for incident response, right? For PR review, for updating docs based on the contents of the PR. And at scale, that shaves minutes, hours, days, valuable time off the redundant work that you would otherwise have to do waiting for a review, going through several rounds of review before the final most important one. You know the time that it takes for that incident response, especially if you're on call, right, and you have to roll out of bed and figure out what the hell's going on. If you could just have a first shot ready for you by the time you hit that first cup of coffee, then you're good to go. So it's a combination, right? It's an ecosystem, but I think Zenflow strikes at the heart of what it means to be a professional engineer in 2026.
Makes sense. That's a nice way to put it. When we talk about productions and real life applications, would love to pick both of your brains again. Short answer would be good. I mean, I don't want to take a lot of your time, but what does a successful SDD workflow with Zenflow looks like according to you?
I would say a successful flow would include obviously the steps which I showed, like the requirements, spec playing, of course, but then it also should include some validation as well, right? So
Right.
it's important for AI to be able to self-reflect on its own work through different tools, through different methods. Like it could be maybe pre-existing tests. It could be maybe the tests that AI actually wrote as part of the implementation. It could be kind of manual testing, like through Playwright MCP, where the AI can open the browser, click around, and see how the implemented feature actually works, actually looks and feels. Yeah, I would say in general, validation has become quite an important part, and it sort of creates this yes, feedback loop for AI to self-reflect, self-update based on the actual observations it can get.
Makes sense. Thank you, Alex, for answering
I'll
that.
throw one in there. I think that first of all, definitely agree with the validation point, because if you're going to leave, agents running long-running autonomous executions, right? That's another paradigm shift where you are not pair programming with it, watching it execute, right? If you're going to leave it to execute independently, then you need to have some degree of validation in there to build that trust. But for me, I think the most important part of a successful workflow is the actual collaboration, right? The actual commitment, the personal commitment, right? As the professional that's driving the whole machine, is that upfront collaboration where you are seriously considering those requirements up front, the technical architecture up front, the way that Zenflow and this whole spectrum development process will prompt you with ideas, alternatives, right? It's hugely valuable for brainstorming and thinking out the nitty gritty. But at the end of the day, I think it's as important for the agent to understand your perspective and your constraints as it is for you to really take the time to consider what this is going to look like, so that when it's done, you recognize it as the vision that you had in the first place.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. I think we're almost there. Before we close down for the day, Leon, Alex, do you have any final thoughts? Anything that you want to share with the audience? And I only have one question. I think it's more of a feedback from Glenn. So I'll just put it up. So Glenn says I can use up to 280 credits in 30 minutes with Zenflow. Does a great work, but can't use it very often.
Yeah,
So
so I guess that's the starter plan, right? One of the plans which we have, and yeah, indeed, spec-driven development does consume a lot of tool calls, a lot of tokens, right? That's something you need to be aware of. And maybe if you have some, let's say, simple feature to implement, you don't want a full-blown spec-driven development, you can, use some sort of smaller version. Like I've shown, we have be pre-ship Zenflow with kind of, shorter version or smaller version of SDD. And again, you can also try to mix and match different models, which also Zenflow allows you to do. Like you're not limited to only specific agent. Let's say when I started the task, it was using Zencoder, but maybe again, even inside Zencoder, you can choose different models. So maybe you want to use Gemini, which, if I recall correctly, is cheaper, right, for some tasks, or maybe you want to use Opus on actual implementation, but then the planning requirements you can offload to cheaper model like Gemini, Haiku, the Grok, which can also help you save on the tokens, on the tool calls and whatnot.
got it. I don't see any more questions coming out from the audience. But yeah, if you have more questions and anything else that you want to ask Alex, Leon, or me, just shoot them out on Discord or just shoot an email to us. More than happy to help, more than happy to assist. You can find three of us on all of those two platforms. But yeah, before we close down, any final note, Leon, Alex?
I've been having a lot of fun with Zenflow. I think you can see just off the bat that it's very different from what you might be used to with a traditional IDE or a clone of an IDE. It really is rebuilt from the ground up, from scratch, to mirror and to work with the agentic environment that we're in today. So really hope you give it a shot and let us know what you think. Let us know what you build. What about you, Alex?
Well, I already kind of shared my personal experience from using Zenflow for the last 2 months, right? So I quite rarely nowadays open IDE or use IDE. I would say the only reasons for me to use IDE is maybe it's like some really very small changes, which I might do manually. But outside of that, I pretty much, and the reason for that is I feel really limited inside the IDE because again, when you are IDE is not designed to manage the fleet of agents, right? It's not designed to let you run 10 agents in parallel, implementing 10 different features. You are kind of limited to single agent, and if you can technically start multiple agents, but they will start stepping on each other's toes, and you probably wouldn't get good results out of that. And in Zenflow, I pretty much run 5, 10 agents implementing new features in parallel, and it feels much more productive, much less limiting compared to just a single agent in IDE.
100%. Zenflow gives you that superpower of managing a fleet of agents, give you the capabilities of running them parallelly, and making the application super amazing. So, having said that, once again, thank you so much, Alex and Leon, for joining in. I think this was super fun. And once again, to everyone who has joined in today, this is Shantanu. I'm a developer advocate as well at Zencoder. I will see you again next week with a super interesting topic, and we'll be talking more about how to integrate Zencoder with AppWrite MCPs. So I'll see you again in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.